Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome back to the cityCURRENT Show, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making an impact and powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're thrilled to have Dr. Stewart Burgess, the CEO of the Children's Museum of Memphis. Dr. Burgess has over 25 years of experience in child development, early childhood education, and designing innovative learning environments. And under his leadership, CMOM, also known as Children's Museum of Memphis, continues to inspire children to explore, imagine, and create through its engaging exhibits and programs. Dr. Burgess, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to have to hire you to do our promos.
Hey, there you go. No problem. Well, start by sharing a little bit about your background and what inspired your passion for child development.
Sure. Thank you. I'm a developmental psychologist. Most developmental psychologists are professors and researchers at universities. That's what I was trained to do and started my career doing. I really, along the way, I originally thought when I entered college as an undergraduate, a psychology major, right from the beginning, I thought I would become a clinical child psychologist and have a private practice. And along the way, I fell in love with what is normal and amazing about child development. So not the things where there are disruptions in the development, but more like children's growth is astonishing and complex and really so impressive. And so charming at the same time that I was riveted by that. And I loved the research as well. So by the time it was time to go to the clinical PhD programs that I got into, I chose the developmental path instead. And that's been a career of really focusing on mostly early learning and early emotional development, kind of birth to 10, although I have research that extends higher than that and experience as well.
Very cool. So 2019, you become the CEO / executive director of Children's Museum of Memphis. What has your journey been like since becoming CEO?
Well, I had 6 months before COVID hit, and because I'm a super genius and wanted to shepherd the museum through closures, when this particular museum is an independent museum, and people ask questions all the time about our funding. And like, are we owned by the city and who subsidizes us? And 70%, we are a nonprofit. We have to raise funds in order to keep the lights on and people employed and the museum open. But about 70% of our income comes from ticket and membership sales, and about 30+% is raised through fundraising. So COVID presented some really significant challenges. Obviously, we had to shut our doors 2 different times, and that stopped the cash coming in, but it didn't change the fact that we had salaries to pay, and it didn't change a lot of our hard costs very much. But we pivoted really hard. We chose to try to come out better, not just to survive. And so the day after we shut our doors, we had scaffolding up all over the walls, interior scraping so that we could paint walls 40 feet high that hadn't been painted in quite some time, and just recarpeting and adding to exhibits. And so we started renovating right away. And then simultaneously, we started writing grants, and had a great deal of success with that. So it was running with our hair on fire. But actually we came out the other end with a lot of things renovated and several things in the renovation work pipeline. And then our finances really kind of nicely buttoned up in a lovely way. So.
Well, that's great that you all have excelled through the adverse conditions of what we all experienced during the pandemic. But then for CMOM to offer its over 30 exhibits and pop-up activities, highlight some of your most popular exhibits, why they resonate with children, and then maybe some of your newly reconstructed or newer exhibits along the way.
Sure. Long-standing, if you ask, so we've been around more than 33 years, and so we're a multi-generation institution, and we have adults that come and talk about their memories from childhood, and all the time. The grocery store is one of the all-time favorites, always. The cargo plane is also right up there as an all-time favorite for people. Everybody has a favorite, but those come up very often. One of the reasons that the grocery store is the favorite is actually a good explanation or a good example of why playful learning is important for children, and sort of role playing, pretend play at being the adult in an adult environment is the way kids are actually designed to learn and grow. So every week, mostly every week, kids are semi-passive passengers in grocery carts at grocery stores, and tagging along, walking next to parents in grocery stores. And while they may get to make a few selections and help, they're not the one driving the cart, and they're not the one driving the experience. And they're not the one doing the checkout, choosing all the items plus paying for them and doing the checkout and scanning the items. And so but they've been watching. They watch the adults to see what are important activities that I need to become competent at. And they build what's called a schema, or a basic story of what is this behavior in this setting like, and what are the steps that it takes. And they delight when they see an opportunity to practice those schemas or those stories of adult competency. So when they see the grocery store that's, 3/4 or half size what they're used to out there in the world, and the carts are their size to drive, and they get to play all the adult roles, they don't need any instruction. They light up and run in and grab a cart and start grabbing items off the shelf. It stimulates a lot of lovely conversations with the adults that brought them about what they're choosing, what the colors are, what the different food categories are, all those kinds of things, whether they like them, don't like them, if it's something that they often eat at home. So you hear all those things just organically come out because kids are used to eating the food that is selected in the grocery store for them. And then they get to switch to being the adult behind the counter and checking them out and scanning the items and making each one beep, and they just light up. And if you haven't gone through it with a child, just getting the receipt that lists all the items that they bought, you'd think that it was the golden ticket in a Willy Wonka bar, because they made all that. And they made it in a grown-up way, just the way their grown-ups do it every time they go to the store. And so they can see and feel that they're competent in that way. And so it delights them. They know that they've been successful in that. I can be a grown-up. This feels really good. I'm in control here. And so that one is one of those great layered pretend play activities that actually helps kids know that the world is a place they can be competent in.
I love that you chose that specific example, because before we were talking about how I have 3 toddlers. One of our toddlers loves going to the grocery store with me and their mom, and they were in there for over an hour. I had to wrangle the other 2 while my wife stayed with Jackson, and he was just scanning everything. And at the end, he was so proud that he had this receipt. Like you said, it was like a golden ticket. And he was like, everything was $4. And I'm like, if only everything that you put in but, he's grabbing the fish and the loaves of bread and the gallons of milk and feeling so accomplished. And it was such a unique way for a parent to also see the importance of not just throwing your kid in the cart when you go to the grocery store and just zooming through, but making it more of an experience next time, because they enjoyed that role playing as well. So
I love that comment too. Thank you. It's a great reminder that it takes very little to sort of engage a child's imagination. And they're really wired to have their imaginations engaged, and they're not often their best selves when they're stuck being bored. So they're not super wired to sit around and wait for something interesting to come along. They're wired to be engaged and to really be learning and practicing. And so that thing of, if you can turn down if you're going down the cereal aisle, if you can do a search and find, like, can you find the letter K? There's going to be a big letter K here somewhere. Or can you find the letter C, or whatever it is? Can you find a color, a letter, as you go? Or we're getting ready to go down the cereal aisle. What's your favorite cereal? Tell me when you see it. So it's meaningful to them, to their worlds. And also there's that thing of, oh, I have knowledge that I can apply in here that is competent. And that thing, and I keep saying competent, but I'm doing it on purpose because they show natural and sort of unfiltered delight at the expression of competence. So, so that thing of, hey, when we help our kids learn something new, grow a new skill, they actually light up like a light up sign, right, in a parade, because they know they've succeeded in a way that's important for life. But it feels like it's just a game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we could talk just about this the entire time. So cool that it's not just exhibits for playful learning, but there's so much teaching involved as well, subconsciously throughout the entire experience. One of your latest exhibits that you just relaunched is the Mississippi River exhibit, which was under construction last time I was there, but it is such an immersive experience and play with water and something so unique to our region and area. Talk about that.
Great. The water play is super important for kids, and anybody who has spent some time with little kids really knows that, and older kids as well. They can spend hours in a bathtub as long as it doesn't get too cold. They can spend hours in a swimming pool, or a little temporary puddle that you've set up for them, as long as they've got a few things to pour with and scoop with, right? And it's actually the basis for a lot of volume and science, and sort of fluid dynamics, like hands-on knowledge. It's a sensory experience, and they're the giant in control of cause and effect in that world, which is super amazing. And then water is such a vital and dynamic element on the planet, necessary to our survival. What a great place to start as well. Our kids have loved for decades playing in the Mississippi River elevated water table exhibit. This is now the one that is getting ready to have the ribbon cutting on. We'll open it officially on June 14th with a ribbon cutting in the morning. But this is a state-of-the-art $500,000, all the bells and whistles, Mississippi River that highlights everything from some of the basic things that are like, why is a river important? Why is it important that Memphis is on the Mississippi? And there are some basic things that are super important. It is a wet road for travel and commerce. It is providing both fresh water and rich nutrients to soil for adjacent farmlands, which is why we're a rich farming community. It provides, not the bulk in any way, a smaller portion of our electricity needs, but hydroelectric power actually on the Tennessee River, not the Mississippi River, helps light our city. So then you've got, somewhere close, like 136 species of fish, and all kinds of wildlife that make up the ecosystem there. And so we actually tried to design a river that while you were playing in it, you'd learn those lessons by osmosis, not by reading a poster or a sign on the wall, but that, as you adjust the hydroelectric dam and let more water flow through it, an acrylic city lights up and gets brighter and brighter the more water you allow to go through. And so they're starting to learn, oh, wow, we actually light our cities with hydroelectric power. And the more you spin the turbine with more water through, the more power you get. And so simple lessons, but they'll just be doing it by playing and lighting up the little toy city. All of it's been custom designed for us with our notes, educational notes as the front point. So here are the lessons that we want them to take away and the experiences that we want them to have.
Inclusiveness is one of CMOM's core values. How do you ensure that the museum is accessible and welcoming to all children and families? And then we'll talk about some membership opportunities.
Sure. We do a number of things. One thing, CMOM has a long history of serving all zip codes in Memphis and Shelby County, every single zip code. And about 80% of our visitors and guests or members and guests come from the Memphis Shelby County region. Then out of the 20% remaining, the bulk of that, 80% of that chunk, come from within a 200-mile radius of our downtown. And so we get to some farmlands and things like that around the city as well. Because we are a very diverse city, we pull a very diverse clientele, which has always been a strength of the museum. You see families of sort of every demographic that you'd expect in our region playing side by side every day at the museum. And if anybody says something different, come and see, because it's evident on a moment-to-moment basis that we actually have a super representative demographic for our region. We do some things to make sure that always stays the case. We work hard to keep our prices down. We advertise with some billboards that rotate through some zip codes that are actually more challenged, just to make sure that the families have us as tip of consciousness and know that we're welcoming, and that we think it would be worth their children, their families' time and resources to come visit the museum. We partner with some large-scale entities to bring in families at free and reduced rates. So like we give all of Porter Leaf's preschool families annual family memberships. And those are the early Head Start type of families that are already getting this lovely and rich curriculum during the daytime, Monday through Friday. Well, we come in and partner to say, here's where you can go after school on the weekend and during school breaks throughout the summer to keep that enrichment going. So there are just a bunch of, we'll be launching some neighborhood initiatives coming up that we're excited about. And we even do things with our own staff, like because I'm a developmental psychologist, first they get free family memberships, all our staff. But then because there's a developmental psychologist on staff, they get free consulting and a lot of parenting and child development resources at their fingertips for their own family needs. So we start in our staff, we roll it out across the street, then we do community partners, and then we're trying to work. We're just starting some billboard campaigns where we're not advertising so much the museum as we are child development. So really kind of pointing toward the vital importance of birth to 5, birth to 10 education in setting up a brain for a lifetime of learning. And so those things we're investing some significant resources in pushing those out in the city. So lots of things in the works just to make sure that it's for everybody and that we're pulling everybody. Then the other things that we do, every time we renovate a space or an exhibit, a learning station, accessibility and equities on the list, the punch list of things that we run things through. So when I first got here, the first thing we touched was the role play theater that is now an Orpheum theater, or our Orpheum theater. So the inside graphics are actually from a photo shoot from our downtown Orpheum theater. And before it was a generic theater with a Hollywood Hills sign on that wall. And, we wanted to make it more immersive, more beautiful, more Memphis, so that our kids here, whether they've been to an Orpheum or not, feel like the Orpheum's for them, and they know what it is and what kinds of things happen in there. And then we also wanted to make sure, hey, can we change this stage so a wheelchair can get on it? And can we change the stage so it's safe for toddlers to toddle on and off of it? And can we get more kids on the stage at a time? And can we add, what if you don't want to be on stage with the light in your face and your face on the screen? What if you want to be the camera technician or the lighting and sound technician? Can we add some of those varied jobs? And so each thing that we redesign or that's new that we install, accessibility and access and welcome are like at the front of the design, right up there with learning objectives for us.
That's so great, because once again, I had the same experience when I was there with my toddlers, and my daughter Emily loved being on stage, and it was so cool to then see the camera operator, another child, making sure that they were following her moves and showcasing there were like flowers there that they were throwing across the stage, and just having such a fun experience, once again, feeling immersive, having that playful learning. Talk a little bit about the membership offerings. I do love, the family membership and being able to add either a nanny or a caregiver onto that so you can have some help when you go. Talk a little bit about those membership offerings.
It's super easy. So you can buy a day ticket if you want, or you can buy a membership. And the memberships allow multiple kids and different configurations. If you don't see what you're looking for, talk to our staff and tell them what your configuration is, and they'll help you find the best, the best match. So we've got everything from one adult and one child up to a couple of adults and 9 children. And so there's sort of everything under the sun. We have, a special discount for our grandparents as well, because a lot of our family memberships are held by grandparents as well as by parents. And then, it's good to do the math on like, so here's what it would cost you to come one day. It's usually, if you come 2 to 2.5 times, depending on the size of the membership, then you've made your money back. You've actually made good on your investment by not just buying day tickets. And so it's actually packaged to be a better deal than day tickets, because you can use it as often as possible, and we encourage that.
I love that.
I should also say, and it also comes with, you don't have to pay parking, you don't have to pay up charges on other kinds of things, so like free splash pad and carousel rides, I believe, and all that.
You have this historic carousel as well, which is so much fun. And as a member, being able to go for free. I mean, my children just kept going multiple times. And of course, at some point you have to go. I'm getting dizzy because I'm an adult, so I will step off of this. But for everything from the carousel to a mini grocery to a fire truck to, I mean, CMOM has it all. And that is such a rich, diverse group of offerings for playful learning for all of Memphis, all of the Mid-South, and those for traveling from afar. What are your maybe few long-term goals for CMOM? Where do you see the museum in the next 5 to 10 years?
Be careful. That's a simple question that has a really long and detailed answer. So we have big dreams, and we have beautiful architectural renderings to illustrate them and articulate them already. So we're looking in the future. So I'll do a couple of things. Overall architectural renovations, just to bring it into the current day a little bit. These are 1940 era concrete armory buildings that have been connected over the years by the Children's Museum. And it'll be the time for the next add a little more square footage and some little oomph on how beautiful and welcoming the entrance is, for example, and functional, and that sort of thing, all the way to the carousel wing that was added when we refurbished the carousel and took it on to this site and built the building around it. The carousel wing was really originally designed for grown-up parties as an event rental space, but that the kids would have the benefit of the carousel every day. We're taking over that 16,000 square feet and turning it all into usable museum space. So super fond of square footage that serves the main mission every day. And so what that will be, the whole carousel side will be 16,000 square feet of STEAM-based learning. So maker spaces with computer coding and robotics, and 3D printing, high definition, high tech projection immersion rooms. Like we've got the designs for a city planning room where the room is dark and you've got movable buildings and structures, and the kids can move, say, if they move the St. Jude building, then the roads and cars that are being projected from the ceiling onto the floor would reroute. And so they become the city planners and redesign the city of the future for Memphis. Some other immersion but interactive rooms that would be a little bit akin to that Beyond Van Gogh, but when you touch the wall, it actually interacts. So it responds to your touch or shadow. And then a ton of hands-on pieces, including all the way up to separate learning kiosks that surround and underpin the carousel's functioning. So we'll turn that into the apron around the carousel into the carousel hall of science, engineering, and simple machines. And it'll be all the lessons that are on display in a functioning carousel, the science of light, color, movement, sound, and all the way to levers, pulleys, simple motor, and then the artistry behind the carving, painting, and preservation of the carousel. And so just make that giant spinning top into sort of the finale in a set of really dynamic physics lessons.
That is astounding. And I know will take, once again, a lot of work, a lot of passion, and a lot of funds to create these ideas. But I know that it's going to come to fruition because it is such a needed part for our community, and bringing in innovation and STEAM learning to our area and letting our children be immersed in that and know that they can go into those fields and flourish and succeed is super important. Can't wait to see that and how we can support those efforts. Finally, how can our listeners support CMOM and get involved in its mission?
Thank you. There's so many different ways. I would say, the first one that pops into my mind is, donate or buy a membership. Whether you're coming or not, you donate by buying a membership. And it's easy to donate. People don't always realize that we're in that category where we're always fundraising, because while we charge $16 for just a single person's day ticket to get in, it costs us about $23.50 per person to run the museum when you break down the year by the people visiting. And so, and that's intentional on our part to keep it accessible. But that means every ticket we sell and every membership we sell, we're signing up to raise funds to cover the rest of the operating expenses. And so the other is talk us up, remind people, don't forget about the Children's Museum. Even as your kids get into the upper elementary range, they still have an amazing time here. But sometimes people start to think they're outgrowing it just a tiny bit. And I would say that each thing that we renovate with that notion of accessibility, again, age is another thing that we do. Each time we touch something, we add a couple layers to the upper age range as well. So we capture the age range that the exhibit's always served, and then bump it up a few notches as well. So there's some additional things for kids to do. And as we extend all the STEAM-based learning, a bunch of that will go all the way up into middle school and beyond for kids, opportunities. Reach out to us if you want to volunteer. Reach out to us if you want to find out, how best to contribute, and talk us up.
Awesome. We will do that. Dr. Stewart Burgess, thank you for sharing your insights into the history and evolution of the Children's Museum of Memphis, but also highlighting your core values and commitment to inspiring children through exploration, creativity, and imagination. We could talk for hours, but
I think we could.
So go visit the Children's Museum of Memphis. Check them out, go see it for yourself, and enjoy the beautiful exhibits and playful experiences. Thanks for coming on the show and for powering the good in our community and beyond.
Thank you, Andrew.